In a well-to-do residence, a loud noise shatters the calm. A gunshot pierces the silence and a woman falls to the floor, covered in blood. Catherine struggles to breathe as the red spreads beneath her body. Sirens draw near. They load her into an ambulance in critical condition, while Paul and his son Alex embrace, their faces pale and hands trembling. The question soon arises. How does a gunshot happen inside a perfect home? And what triggered this fall? Months earlier, Catherine leads an orderly life. She works at the Ministry of Justice in the Penitentiary Service. She monitors and keeps records of criminals under house arrest. Among her files is Hugo's, an attractive young man who claims he was imprisoned unjustly. In their first interview, he scans the family photos and books in Catherine's office with his eyes. He answers the questionnaire calmly and then stands up to leave. As he crosses the door, he's already silently devising a plan that she doesn't notice. Catherine watches him walk away through the building's window. The workday goes on. The files keep coming. The day ends without any visible surprises. A few days later, on her way to the ministry, Catherine stops at a cafe. At a nearby table, she recognizes Hugo. He is writing in a notebook and drinking coffee. Focused. They greet each other politely, knowing they'll soon see each other at the office for another routine check. The coincidence seems innocent, but it leaves a trace of unease. Back at the office, Catherine asks to see what he was writing. Hugo hands her the notebook. Inside there are several poems. He says it's his favorite hobby, that he has many notebooks filled with verses. Catherine shares that she also likes poetry, and the topic brings them closer for a few minutes. She returns to protocol. She explains the restrictions he will have when he receives the electronic ankle monitor. She opens his file and reviews the charges. Robbery and assault of the victim, who remained in critical condition for weeks. The gravity of the situation hangs in the air. Catherine notices something. At the time of the arrest, he had no bruises on his hands. She asks why. Hugo immediately replies that he wasn't the attacker. He claims that the victim himself incriminated him and that it's all a setup. The meeting ends. Before leaving, Hugo suggests that Catherine keep his notebook of poems. He wants her honest opinion. She accepts the notebook and leaves, and gathers her things to head home. In the hallway, she has no idea she's being watched closely. In the parking lot, Catherine walks toward her car. A metallic noise echoes. Hugo strikes a fire extinguisher with a pen and throws it without being seen. The blow startles and confuses. Catherine jumps and runs to her car, breathing heavily. From that moment on, anonymous letters with poems start arriving at her workplace. Messages ring on her phone, asking if she likes the letters. The intrusion grows and the calm is shattered. At first, Catherine doesn't know who the messages are from. After a brief conversation with Hugo, she realizes that he is the author. They decide to ignore it. The more she tries to distance herself, the more messages arrive. They pile up in her inbox as she tries to concentrate. That night, before going to sleep, she can't resist her curiosity and opens the notebook of poems. She reads by dim light, her pulse held in check. The attraction to the forbidden begins to break down her barriers. One day, Alex, her son, shows up at her work to invite her to lunch. They run into Hugo in the building. He looks at the young man and immediately understands that he is Catherine's son. Mother and son have lunch at a restaurant, speak little, and head back to the bus stop. At the platform, Alex boards the bus and says goodbye. Catherine is left alone for a few seconds. That's when Hugo takes the opportunity to intercept her and corner her into a conversation. Hugo insists on talking. Catherine tells him to stop sending messages and to delete her number. He ignores her request and wants to know if she read his poems. He claims that she is the only one who has read them. He repeats that his future depends on her. Catherine is left speechless, trapped by the intensity of his gaze. The boundary is crossed when he kisses her. She freezes, torn between pushing him away and sinking deeper. On the bus, Alex looks out the window and witnesses the scene stunned. The bus stops and Alex gets off in a hurry. He runs toward his mother to see up close what's happening. Catherine, now aware of the situation, pushes Hugo away and walks off quickly. Hugo steps aside with an unsettling calm and returns home, satisfied. He doesn't notice that Alex is following him at a distance, memorizing the way. From that day on, the boy withdraws into silence. With his mother, he becomes cold and distant. Catherine notices. She suffers from the change and doesn't know how to fix it. Weeks later, Catherine turns 50. The house fills with guests, laughter, and music. In the middle of the celebration, her phone vibrates nonstop. She tries to ignore the messages. Suddenly, one stands out among them all. It says he's outside the house. Fear forces her to act. She goes out to the garden, her heart in her throat, to confront Hugo. She doesn't notice that Paul is watching her from the back, paying close attention to her every move. Paul approaches, looks at Hugo, and convinced by a mistaken assumption, believes he is the contractor he called to fix the terrace. It's not working hours, but he invites him in and offers him a drink. Catherine swallows hard and follows him, not knowing how to stop the misunderstanding. In the living room, Hugo smiles maliciously and spills the drink on his clothes. Paul, ever helpful, asks his wife to lend him a shirt. He leads her toward the laundry area, not noticing the growing tension. Alone, Catherine bursts out. She confronts Hugo about everything he does and causes. He remains silent. He slowly takes off his shirt and stares at her. The tension rises. He leans in and kisses her on the neck. Catherine gives in for a few seconds and then firmly pushes him away. She hands him clean clothes and leaves, upset. Hugo is left alone. He walks through hallways, opens doors, explores. He enters Paul's office and discovers some documents. He sees that Paul is a judge. In a cabinet, he finds a small pistol. He looks at it. He puts it back in its place and leaves the party, now holding information that changes everything. Later, when the birthday party is over, Catherine makes up a work excuse. She leaves the house and meets up with Hugo. They kiss urgently and share a few minutes of passion. On her way back, Paul watches her and grows suspicious. That night, he barely sleeps. In the following days, Catherine goes to Hugo's house with a police officer. They have to put the electronic ankle monitor on him. They carry out the procedure. When the officer leaves, Catherine stays behind. Intimacy arises in that closed house, and their bond crosses another line. From then on, they see each other frequently. They change locations, coordinate schedules, blend in with the city, and share tables at a restaurant they start to frequent. Weeks go by without anyone discovering the affair, until Hugo takes things a step further. He asks Catherine to request a sentence reduction from Paul. He argues that Paul is a judge and holds the key. Catherine is surprised and refuses. Her refusal enrages him. The tone escalates and boundaries are pushed. Suddenly, Hugo receives a message. It's from Alex, who has managed to get his number. He writes that he went to his house and met his teenage sister, Vispera. He adds that he gave her money and that she used it to buy drugs. The message lights the fuse. Hugo runs home, blood rushing to his head. The calm of routine is shattered. Alex, for his part, can no longer tolerate his mother's romance. He is convinced that Hugo is only using her to reduce his sentence and decides to take action. Alex approaches Vispera. He listens to her speak carefreely and detects resentment toward her brother. He thinks he has a chance. He pressures her to help him get Hugo sent to prison and free his mother. She refuses. She mocks him. She insists she won't turn in her own brother. The rejection unsettles him and pushes him toward violence. Hugo enters. He sees Alex and lunges at him, ready to hit him. Alex doesn't back down and firmly reminds him that he's the son of a judge and that his father would destroy him if he touches him. The threat weighs heavily. Hugo holds back the blow and takes his sister away, his anger unresolved. Meanwhile, Paul reviews his work. Among his files, Hugo's name appears. He has been asked to investigate that case because he will be the judge at the trial. He accesses the government records. When he sees the photo, he goes cold. It's the same man who was at the birthday party, the supposed builder. During dinner, Paul probes. He asks Catherine if she spoke with the builder because the terrace is still the same. She replies that she hasn't had time and avoids his gaze. Paul asks her for the number so he can take care of it himself. Catherine quickly replies that it's not necessary, that she has it under control. The conversation ends with a heavy silence. In Paul's mind, the pieces painfully fall into place. He suspects an affair. He remembers that she never confessed to him that Hugo wasn't a builder and confirms that she knows him through work. Distrust settles at the table. The crack in the marriage becomes visible, even if no one says it. Shortly after, Catherine lingers over a verse in Hugo's notebook. It seems familiar to her. She searches on the internet. She discovers that the poems are copied from well-known authors. The next day at the restaurant where they usually meet, Catherine wants to confront him. She tries to speak, but Hugo grabs her by the arm and leads her to the bathroom. Urgency pushes the conversation aside. She gives in, almost unable to refuse. The door opens and a friend of Hugo's comes in. He stands there watching. Humiliation devastates Catherine. She runs out, tears blurring her vision. With rage on the surface, Alex returns to Hugo's house. He looks for Vispera. He promises her money for drugs, but on the way, he insists that she help him lock up his brother. She keeps rejecting him and laughs at him. Alex loses control. He grabs her by the neck and threatens her to make her cooperate. They start to struggle. She stumbles. She falls backward and hits her head against a brick with a dull thud. Time stops and fear rushes in like a blast of cold air. Alex kneels beside her. He thinks she just fainted. He tries to wake her up, shakes her, calls her name. The seconds become unbearable. He realizes she's not breathing. Reality crushes him. He calls his father, sobbing. Paul arrives at the scene and sees Vispera's motionless body. Alex tells him everything through tears. That she is Hugo's sister, that he went to find her to get revenge, that he believes Hugo is using his mother. Paul processes the confession, and suddenly, his worst suspicions are confirmed. His wife is cheating on him, and his son knows it. He decides to help him, with no other choice. They think about what to do with the body. They drive to a wooded area, dig with their hands and improvise tools, lay the body down and cover it. That night, the rain falls heavily. The water washes away the tracks. It drags the earth and dissolves traces. They think they've succeeded. However, they don't notice that a hand remains exposed among the disturbed earth. Nature covers up, but not completely. The threat of a discovery remains, waiting for the next move. 2 days later, the news breaks. They find the body of a young woman in the woods. The pressure reaches Paul. At home, he confronts Catherine about her affair with a criminal. She replies that she's sorry, her voice breaking. Paul stands his ground. He asks for a divorce, making it clear that he will have custody of Alex. Catherine breaks down and cries, facing the consequences. The house is filled with echoes of silence. The three of them, each in their own corner, measure the weight of what they have broken. That afternoon, the phone rings. It's Hugo. He informs Catherine that the police have found her sister's body. She can barely manage to offer her condolences. Hugo, straight. He asks where Alex was the last 2 nights. Anxiety spreads like wildfire. Catherine ends the call and rushes home. She questions her son about his whereabouts. Alex is silent. He looks at the floor, and he can't hold her gaze. His hands tremble. Catherine puts the pieces together and realizes he might be involved. She asks him where he and his father were on the night of the storm. The question falls like a sentence. Alex doesn't answer. Suddenly he runs out of the house. He doesn't come back that night. He stays in a hotel with Paul, seeking refuge in a bubble that won't last. Catherine is left alone, with the certainty weighing on her chest. Hugo's threat. The body found. The broken marriage. Everything is moving toward the final collision that no one can avoid anymore. The next day, Hugo takes action. He disables the sensor on his electronic ankle monitor. He cuts off the device and leaves it behind. He walks toward Catherine's house with a clear objective. He enters and corners her. He asks where Alex is. He demands an answer. Catherine backs away. She looks for space. She tries to stay calm. Danger fills the room. The air grows heavy. Someone's footsteps sound behind the door. The climax comes quickly. Suddenly, Paul and Alex enter the house. They see Hugo facing Catherine and react. Paul jumps in without hesitation and lunges at him. Shoving, blows, furniture being moved. Catherine joins in and grabs Hugo's arm to pull him away. In the middle of the struggle, Paul yells at his son to call the police. Alex runs, but not towards the phone. He goes into his father's office, opens the cabinet, and looks for a weapon. She takes it out with trembling hands. Go back to the room and take notes. The gunshot explodes and tears through the air. The fight is abruptly cut short. Hugo. Pale and frightened, he runs towards the door and flees. Paul looks around, searching for the wound in the air. Alex lowers the weapon, paralyzed. On the floor, Catherine lies motionless. She threw herself at Hugo to take the bullet. Blood reappears in the scene, just like at the beginning. The screams call for emergency services. The sirens return to this home, violently closing the circle. Moments later, the ambulance takes Catherine away in critical condition. Paul holds Alex. The embrace is stiff and broken. Outside, blue lights spin and reflect in the house's windows. Inside, the marks of the fight and the echo of the gunshot remain. Catherine is fighting between life and death. The family is left hanging on the edge, with debts no one knows how to pay. The story stops at the point of no return, where every decision already has a price.